Are you dealing with some days of difficulty? Are you in a season of suffering? How should a Christian handle difficulty in a way that's victorious? I want to tell you, you can face difficulty, even the greatest of difficulties, victoriously. How? Well, let's go to the book of Job. You know the story. He was a good man. He was a godly man. He was a blessed man, a very, very wealthy man. Well, one day, God and Satan had a little test, and it was all about Job. Whether Job, when he faced incredible adversity, would continue to worship God or not. If all the blessings are taken away, was God still worth it? Well, Job in one day lost his oxen, his sheep, his cattle. He lost everything plus his servants, and all 10 of his children were killed. A horrible day. But how did Job face that difficulty? With worship. We find in Job chapter 1, it says, "Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell to the ground and worshiped." Even though it's all been taken away, he got down on his knees and he said, "God, you are still worth it." Second, he faced it without entitlement. It goes on in verse 21, it says, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I will return. The Lord gave, the Lord's taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." I didn't have any of this when I was born. I'm not going to be able to take any of it with me. I'm not entitled to anything. Everything I have is a gift from God. He faced it without entitlement. He faced it without sinning. It says in verse 22, "In all this Job did not sin or charge God with wrong." He didn't get mad and accuse God and curse God, and he didn't use it as an excuse to sin. You were all going to deal with difficulties. How are you going to deal with your difficulties? Job responded with worship, without entitlement, and without sinning. Beyond that, he refused to give up on God. You see, Satan went back to God and said, "Yeah, but you didn't hurt his body. When you hurt his body, then he'll curse you." And God said, "We'll see." Well, Satan covered Job with big, open, painful sores, boils. And what did Job do? Job responded with worship. He said to his wife, "Shall we indeed accept good from God and not accept adversity?" And all this, Job did not sin with his lips. He refused to give up on life, and he refused to give up on God. No matter how bad it gets, don't give up on God, because He's worth it. But he did ask questions. You read the rest of Job, you find he asked questions and said things like, "Would it have been better if I'd never been born?" He kept saying, "God, why is this happening to me? Give me some answers." He asked, "Why do the evil people prosper and the good people suffer?" Legitimate questions. It's okay when you're suffering to ask questions, but don't get stuck on your questions. He faced it with genuine grief. He grieved the loss of his business, of his health, and especially the loss of his children. Don't pretend everything's okay when it's not. Go ahead, be a real person. Grieve when you are suffering. He dealt with a desire for a mediator. He said, "Oh, if I just had somebody between me and God that could stand between us." And we know that one day there was a mediator who came. His name is Jesus, the mediator between God and man, Jesus the God-man, the great mediator, who hanging on the cross joined God and man together through His death, His burial, and His resurrection for our sins. He also responded with confidence in the benefits. He says, "You know what? I'm going to go through all this fire of affliction, and it's going to make me come forth refined as pure gold. God's going to make me better through my suffering." And can we all say that? We learned our biggest lessons usually at the hardest times in our lives. And last, Job faced it by praying for others. It says in Job 42 that God turned the captivity of Job, the suffering of Job turned around when he prayed for his friends. It's not all about you. When you're suffering, it's easy to get self-centered. Think about other people. There's always other people that are suffering as well. Think about them, pray for them, serve them, and I guarantee you, when you do these things, you can face your difficulties with victory.